We're going to go back into Genesis today, but I wanted to start with Romans 8:28 because this comes up in conversation over and over and over. This is the centerpiece for many people of Romans chapter 8. It's not exactly the midpoint, but it leads up to this verse 28, and then it leads away from this into the next topic that he's talking about. And this promise, you probably all know this by heart in one form or another, and it's this: we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Now, most often when we mention the verse, we don't quote the entire verse. We say God works all things for good. And then we put a period there, and we say that's it. And that is the essence of the passage. When you talk about this verse with other Christians, when you talk about this with a wide variety of Christians, you discover that you get a number of different perspectives coming to this verse. People hear it and understand it, and they have said it in their heart in different ways. To a lot of Christians, they quote this verse in some form or another, maybe the full verse or part of it, and then they say, okay, that means that God is never going to let anything bad happen in my life. Okay, that's not what it says, but that's how it's been absorbed by certain. How many people have not had anything bad happen in their whole life? Go ahead, just throw your hand up. Yeah, none of us, right? Everybody. So the verse can't possibly be a promise that God is not going to allow anything bad to happen in your life. So we gently correct those friends. We gently teach them that that's not what the verse is. And then there's the second way that Christians commonly understand this. And that is, God is going to take everything, every single thing, and work it for good. God's going to make everything good, no matter what. No matter the worst thing you can imagine or you have experienced, God's going to make it good. Again, not what the verse says. There's parts to truth to all these perspectives. There are nuggets of what Paul is saying in each of these understandings that I've talked about here. God will never let anything bad. That might happen. Unlikely, but it might. Or God is in your lifetime going to make everything work out okay. So no matter what you're suffering, no matter what your challenge is, no matter what's going on in your world, God's going to make everything be okay. Again, unlikely, but it could happen. When you read this verse grammatically in its layout in the original language, the verse says this: God is working all things for good through, or with, whichever way you want to say it, through those who love him. God is working all things for good through his people, through his church. God is working all things in his time and in his way through his people. Historically, this is true. Through God's people, Israel, they were a witness of sorts to God's grace and his mercy. He sustained them for a long time. He sent the long-awaited Holy One that they were looking for, the Messiah, the Christ. And then Jesus set about building a new people, us, the church. And through all that, God is working all things for good through his people, through those who love him. But what this means this means is that God may give you a life of incredible ease and comfort. God may make everything okay for you. God may give you all your days just blessing after blessing after blessing. It also means that God may put something in your life, give you something that is almost unbearably difficult. And yet, it will still be true that God is working all things for good. Through that difficult thing, through that challenging and painful thing, through that loss, God is working all things for good. God may use people who are not the holiest people. We're reading in Genesis. You already know this. God may use people that are downright awful people and work things for good through those people. God may even use the consequences of bad decisions that you and I make for good. Because God is working all things for good. And God works all things for good, not just for your individual life, not just for me, his favorite child. No, God works all things for good for his kingdom. God takes the good, the blessings over here, in the same way that he takes the challenges over here, and he works those things for good in his kingdom. He works those things for good so that his kingdom is glorified. God works the good, the bad, the indifferent, those who are not the holiest people, those that are awful people, liars, deceivers, cheats, those who claim their wives to be their sisters. God works all things through those people for the ultimate good of his kingdom. And when you get that thought locked in your head, you have to climb up on a ladder now to look down with this broad perspective on the story of the Bible. So often when we're reading the Bible, we're in this little narrow frame. We're going to read out of one chapter in Genesis today, this little compressed story. And we go, well, that's it. You know, you have to extract the thought from that. You have to extract the application from that. You have to say, okay, I've got this scripture locked into my heart now. But get up on that ladder. Get on that big, tall ladder and now look down at this little tiny incident right here over the span of all of history. And see how God takes these awful people and works things for good. And when you believe that concept, when you believe that truth, then you can look at your life. You say God's working all things for good through the good days and the bad days, through the sickness and the health. God works all things for good through those who love him. Let's come back to Genesis chapter 27 because we're going to see the not so good once again. If you remember this story when we started here, there's a little scheming going on here. Somebody wants to steal something that's not his. Well, steal's kind of rough. Somebody wants to con somebody else out of something that doesn't belong to him. Remember the characters here, Isaac and Rebekah, mom and dad, and Jacob and Esau, the twins. None of which I can commend to you, unfortunately. They've all got their faults. They've all got terrible tendencies. This story, as it's unfolding, is this story of stealing something, of conniving something, of snaking their way into something that's not theirs. And the question, when you read a story like this, if you stop and you just read this story, you just shake your head and go, Why aren't these people smited? Or better, here's the better way to say this. What in the world is God doing with these people? What in the world is God doing with these people? Well, if you know the name Jacob, you know that he's a patriarch of God's people, Israel. So God's going to do something incredible through him, even though he has his faults. So we left off the story in verse 13. Rebekah is encouraging Jacob to go steal the blessing from Isaac. Isaac wants to bless Esau, the furry brother. He wants to bless him with a divine prayer, a divine blessing, and Jacob wants it. Or Rebekah wants it for Jacob. One or the other. That's how it's going here. So the plan is hatched and it's being put into motion here. So in verse 14, so he went, that would be Jacob. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother. That is, all the things that she has told him to bring. And she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Now remember, his father had told Esau, go out and catch me a squirrel. I'd like some fresh game here. So she is pretending to serve him fresh game meat. Okay, then verse 15. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. Now watch this now. This is how far she's willing to go with this. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. Now mom is contributing to this story. Don't forget this. Jacob is a deceiver. Jacob has already proven this with the whole stew incident, but his mom is egging him on here. She has hatched this plan. She is not only taking that goat meat and she's making it taste gamey or gamier, right? Gamier. She's making it taste gamier. She's saying, but she dressed the kid up in his brother's clothes and put the skins on his arms, and on his neck, so that when he went in, his father would be deceived. Let's see how that goes. Verse 18. He went to his father and said, my father. And Isaac responded, yes, my son. Who is it? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. Liar. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. Now this blessing is not just, he's going to raise his hand up and say, bless you. The blessing that this is referring to has divine power. It is believed that if the father blesses his eldest son in a certain way, that God will bring all these things to pass, that he will enjoy all the things that the father blesses him over. So this is not something to be toying with. This is not a game. And yet these people are stepping into it further and further and further. So Jacob has lied to his father. He's deceiving his father, and he's going to ask for the blessing. Verse 20, Isaac asks his son, how did you find it so quickly? Well, it was out in the farmyard is what he should say, but instead, the Lord. This is the worst thing he could do. The lying, the deceiving, the hooking of Esau's birthright, these are all bad things. But let this be your thought for today. Write this down if you need to. Do not involve God in your lies. This is taking the Lord's name in vain, by the way. If you ever need to understand that passage, there it is. You have just involved the Lord in your deceit. Or not you, but Jacob has. Jacob says, the Lord gave me success. Another lie, and you've now involved God in it. Verse 21, then Isaac said to Jacob, come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not. So here's the moment of truth. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob. But the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. Now Isaac asked, this is his out. This is his opportunity to come clean, to make amends for involving God in his lie, for getting his mom off the hook, for doing all this. Are you really my son Esau? And Jacob says, I am. Then he said, my son, bring me some of the game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing. The layers of deceit are terrible. He's going deeper and deeper and deeper. He is confronted face to face. Are you really who you say you are? That's his chance to scurry away. He says, yeah, I am. Feel my arms. I am. And the fact that he involved God in this lie, as though God is blessing what he's doing, as though God is okay with what he's doing. Back in verse 25, Jacob brought it to him and he ate. And he brought some wine and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. This is it. This is the moment of truth here. So he went to him, Jacob, and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. You see what's happening here? He is praying on behalf of the deceiver. He is giving God's blessing to one who has lied to his face. He is giving his blessing, this divine, powerful blessing, as though Jacob is the oldest son standing before him. And Jacob and Rebekah must just be cheering this on. Verse 29, look what he does. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. The depth of this blessing is what makes all the things around it doubly awful. Where he was just telling a lie, where he was just formulating a story, where he was just putting on a costume, where his mom was sort of pushing him into something maybe he ought not have done. As soon as Isaac is deceived, and he's, literally laying hands on this child, he is conveying God's blessing on him. He is giving God's power and authority to this liar, to this deceiver, to one who doesn't deserve this. Isaac is praying over his son that God will carry on all that he's doing through this man. And we don't hear a word about what is going on with God at this point. But he's heard his name used in vain. He's seen lying. He's seen cheating. I have to think he's writing all these down so when he writes out the 10 Commandments, he can highlight these things. He's putting all this down, and yet, you know the story. You've read past this point. You know that God is going to work things for good. This is one of the challenges of reading the Bible, especially as we read in the Old Testament, because we run into people like this all the time. This is a challenge for us to read because we're trying to reconcile the God of holiness and all righteousness with liars and cheaters and deceivers. We're trying to balance this out. Why doesn't God punish them? How in the world could he work things for good through this guy? And what it requires, in order for us to grasp this, we have to get back up on that ladder and expand our vantage point. We have to see the big picture, the picture that goes from Genesis 1 and creation all the way to Revelation 22. We have to see this whole picture and know that this is just a part of what God is doing throughout all of history. If we narrow in on a story and try to formulate sort of doctrine from this, or we try to formulate how should I behave, we can take something like this and go, well, you know, a little lie's okay. God didn't smite them, right? If I deceive Gordy over here, Gordy will be cool with it, right? Everybody's looking at you now, Gordy, sorry. But, you know, we can take that away from us in this small slice. But once we put it in the big perspective, we see, well, wait a minute. There's consequences from this. The things that are going to unfold after this are not things I want to experience. These people may be awful. This trick may work. They may have deceived Isaac here. But there's a lot of story yet to unfold. A lot of things are going to happen here. Esau himself, even though he's the victim here, he's a pretty rotten guy too. And there's consequences. And Isaac, the father of all this, the one who's supposed to look over all these people, there's going to be consequences for him. This doesn't go unscathed. Evil prospers for this page only. Bless you. Evil prospers in this moment. And God will work things for good through it by watching the story unfold. When we take that long-term perspective, we see how this fits. We see how it matters. We see the good that comes from it. We see the bad that comes from it. We see how everything leads up to Jesus. We see how Jesus leads us to the cross. We see how the cross leads us to the resurrection. We see how the resurrection is the promise that we will all be made new, that one day we will be just like Jesus. And in that promise, in these redeemed lives that we live, we know that one day the kingdom that was way over there is going to be fully restored over here. And we will have eternity in the river city. We will have eternity where the river of life is flowing out of the middle of the city. We will have eternity in the shalom. And what we thought evil was doing, where we thought evil prospered, where we think people get away with stuff, we find out that in the end, God has worked it all out. You say, well, that's really interesting, but what do I do with this? Well, you know, Leroy gave us the perfect example this morning as he was talking about funerals. Funerals, you know, are a unique experience. I've done more than my fair share of funerals for people I know, for people I don't know. And yet at every funeral, something happens. Leroy was talking about having somebody who can speak well do your life sketch. Now, we've seen people up here trying to get a life sketch out, right? People who are terrified to be standing on this spot right here. And they can't get it out. And we've seen the 20-minute slideshows of I wasn't trying to make a joke, but we've seen the slideshows of people's entire lives played out there, right? What we're getting in that moment is a lifetime perspective. so-and-so was born in Los Angeles, California in 1960. And then he died somewhere after that. All of a sudden, those moments where we knew that guy, somewhere where we knew this experience, we had these little experiences. He was really good here, he wasn't so good over here. All these little experiences are now put on this tableau of an entire lifetime. And we come up here and I talk about people and we share scripture from people and we sing songs that people enjoyed and we share with one another how we knew those people, and we see the pictures from baby pictures all the way up until almost their last days. We see all this. We see this life played out like this. And we learn something about people. We learn the importance of their faith. We learn how it carried them through that difficult time. Maybe you didn't know that. We learn how their faith transformed their life. We learned how their faith changed their final days, how they were able to endure things. And we take all that, and you think about those that are sitting in the audience, some believers, some who are not yet believers, some who are outright antagonistic towards the faith, some who have absolutely no interest in the faith, and yet they're put in this experience where the entire picture of a person's life is played out before them. And that speaks so powerfully. It speaks about the way that God works all things through the course of a person's life. The hard times, the good times, the sickness, the health, the challenges, the successes. We get that over the course of somebody's 85 or 100 years of life. And we take that perspective back to the Bible. And we say, wait a minute, God's not just working the story in the near term here. God is working this story out over the course of all of history. God is working all things for good. Well, the story ends like this, starting in verse 30. After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He also prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, "My father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." And his father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" Don't try to trick me, dude. Who are you? And Esau says, "I'm your son. I'm Esau, your firstborn." The consequences start unfolding here. Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came in, and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed. You cannot go and take that blessing back. You would be disrespecting of God. I didn't mean what I prayed over that person. You can't do that. It's gone. The blessing is given to Jacob here." And Isaac is upset about this now, at being tricked. Verse 34, when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too." But Isaac said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob, the deceiver? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me." Not technically. You gave your birthright away and your mother did this to you. But Esau says, "This is the second time he's taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, you gave it to him, and now he's taken my blessing." And then he asks, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me? Don't you have like a second level blessing for me? Isn't there something you can do?" And Isaac answers Esau, "I have made him lord over you and made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you?" And Esau says to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too." Then Esau wept. His father Isaac answered him, listen to this blessing, because now the story is going to turn. Now Isaac has some insight into the consequences. Your dwelling, Esau, will be away from the earth's riches, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke off from your neck. Esau's blessing consists of curses. All of this deceit, all of this lying, all of this trickery. And it's all just landed on Esau. So go back to the verse we started with this morning. God works all things for good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. We hang on to this promise. We can use this to shape our thinking and our understanding of the world and the good and the challenging things that come into our life. If you look at the chaotic world that we currently reside in, war, people dying, countries in an uproar. You say, how's God going to work this for good? How's God going to make this into something good? We look at the different challenges in each of our lives. We may be going through a period of extraordinary difficulty. We may have gotten a diagnosis that we didn't want to get. We may be struggling over this or that, and we're asking, how's God going to work this for good? How's God going to turn this into something good? And the answer is to step back and to look at the promises of the entire story. That, in our small slice of the world, even the tiny slice that comprises our entire lifetime in this world, it may be difficulty from the day you were born until the day you're called home. But that's just a small part of God's larger redemptive plan, where he is eternally and forever going to work all things for good. We take our difficulties, we take these awful people, we look at all the incidents that we'll read in the pages ahead, we take all these things and we put them in that story, and we reassure ourselves again and again and again that God is going to work all things for good through his people, through those who love him. God is going to work all things for good for his kingdom. God is going to work all things for good so that the maximum number of people can know shalom, can know the joy, the eternity of the Garden City for all of time. That's God working all things for good.